Okay, we're live, but we do have to let the stream breathe just for a few seconds. Got to make sure we got 5 green check marks. And we are good. Welcome in, everybody, to the Huddle Up podcast, presented as always by Mile High Huddle, powered by Overtime Media. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, as always, my partner in crime and my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him. He is Zack Kelberman. Zack, I want to get into the nitty gritty, but first things first. And for those of our listeners who might have missed this, the histrionics today on Twitter between Brandon McManus and Tom McMahon. First things first, I want to get your gut reaction to McManus kind of being outspoken, going out of his way to kind of kick the hornet's nest on Twitter and rebutting Tom McMahon, his position coach and coordinator.
Is this a fireable offense now for Tom McMahon, Chad? What more has to be done? And it scares me because the guy in charge of firing McMahon, Fangio, listened to Fangio. I mean, he took his marching orders from McMahon. And now you have the kicker who you made the 4th highest paid kicker in the entire NFL, butting heads with the coordinator. It's just locker room turmoil you could have avoided, Chad, months ago by getting rid of the coordinator, and now it's leaking out into the public. Now it's leaking out on Twitter. If it was me, I'm signing with McManus over McMahon any day. But it's up to Fangio to be the head coach here again and bring everyone together. Not giving him the chance, Chad, to justify the contract. He's been money this season. He's been literally McMoney again. Why not push him out there? Why not override your coordinator and make a big boy head coaching call? So as complicit as McMahon is in all this, Fangio deserves blame as well. We talked about this before.
So let me just set the stage, because there are some fans right now going, wait, what are you guys talking about? All right, let me cast back your memory, your mind's eye, to the first quarter in Atlanta. All right, the Denver Broncos offense struggling to get things going, but on their first possession, they do manage to cross the 50. And on third down, on a 3rd and 15, it's a 9-yard pickup to Deshaun Hamilton. Not enough to move the chains, but they advance the ball to the Falcons' 41. It's a 58-yard attempt. You think you're in a dome, you're in a controlled environment. McManus has been 5 of 6 from 50-plus this year. Here comes the 58-yard attempt. And for those of you watching the broadcast version last week, you can remember the announcers going, when they rolled the punter back out there, what the heck is Vic Fangio doing? Well, it turned out that he called timeout, talked to Tom McMahon, the special teams coordinator. McMahon talked him out of it. And we learned from McMahon today why. Let me do a quick share screen here. Bear with me one second. I'm getting I don't know what's going on. My browser has just frozen. Bear with me one sec. Worst case scenario, Zach, if I have to dip out, I'll come right back in. My browser's doing something weird. It's like frozen up. Can you hear me okay right now, though?
Yeah, you're coming in good.
I'm coming in good. Let me do this. For some reason, Chrome is freezing up, so I'm going to dip out just for a second. Grab a super chat. It is the Mile High Mailbag, gang. This is the our favorite podcast of the week, where we take a peek inside the Mile High Mailbag, because we are your football priests, as you can see here, each and every week. We're here to offer you the absolution and answers to your burning Broncos questions. And today's episode is going to be mostly dedicated to answering your questions, and we'll get to as many as we can in the stream. But I'm going to really quick reset here because something's going on. Give me like 3 minutes. I'll hop back on, but it's frozen. I can't do anything. So give me a second, grab a super chat or two, and I'll be right back.
Yes, sir. The beauty of live podcasting, folks. Casey jumping in here, $5 donation. Thank you so much, Casey, for joining us tonight. He says, help me with the debate I'm in. Who do you think on this offense is most likely to end up a Ring of Famer? Thanks as always, Priest. Hashtag the old Derek Wolf hashtag don't even F with us. On the offense, well, let's break it down. You have Drew Lock. I don't think he's Ring of Fame caliber, Hall of Fame caliber just yet. Phillip Lindsay, as good as he is, Ring of Famer, Terrell Davis-like, I don't know about that. I would venture to say, maybe aside from Noah Fant, I think the easy answer here is Courtland Sutton. Because already in a few short years, he was established as a top 10 receiver in the NFL. He was among the most elite guys. He was Calvin Johnson Jr. And I know he hasn't realized that potential just yet. I know he has bad quarterbacks. He missed the entire season this year. But when he comes back and when he's healthy, when he's dominant, he is as much of a Ringer Famer as any player on this offense, any player on the team. maybe except for Von Miller. So my money on this offense for sure is Courtland Sutton, one of my favorite players. I have his helmet right in back of me, guys. He's just an all-star, all-pro player. I miss him this season, but going forward, he's going to come back with a vengeance and be the all-pro dominant guy that we've known to love. So going with Sutton for that answer. What else do we got, John, while we wait for Chad and the spinning wheel on my right to come back up to life today? What else do we got in the comment section?
Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
Sorry. Put that back up. I'm sorry, John. Put back up Ridge if you can. Thank you. Thank you, Ridge. $5 donation. Thank you so much for tuning in with us tonight. He says, watching the presser of Locke after the Falcons game has me excited. He seems like he's getting angry, and being a former athlete, that's a good sign. He's always been angry, guys. He's a human being like the rest of us. He has eyes, he has ears, he has a brain. He understands what's going on. He doesn't like the criticism. He thinks it's probably unfair. He thinks it's very stacked against him, but he hates losing more than anything else. Most like Jerry Jeudy, like all these other players, these young players, they come from big collegiate programs where they're big fish in small ponds. They're not used to losing. So I think for sure Drew Lock is fired up to prove himself and the criticism wrong, but he's fired up more so to get a win and to get the Broncos back into contention. So I'm excited as well. It's not so much him, though. I want the Broncos to not only play angry, and it's not going to be surprising here, I want them to coach angry as well. I want Pat Shurmur to not be conservative. I don't want him to be passive. I want him to be aggressive. I want him to be the alpha and not the beta. So Locke is going to come out on Sunday against a bitter divisional rival, hopefully angry and pissed off, but I hope the coaching staff is as well, because they're as much as a detriment as Locke's play.
All right. You can see me. You can hear me right now, right?
Let's keep knocking these out, guys, while Chad's trying to get back in the pod tonight. Bronco Batman jumping in, $4.99. Thank you so much. He goes, nothing like a middle-of-the-week pod to get me pumped up after a tough loss. Thanks for y'all's hard work. Go Broncos. I mean, I told, we told you guys this after a tough loss. You take Sunday and you take maybe Monday to feel sorry for yourself, to, wallow in the misery of a defeat. By Wednesday, Thursday, by this pod in the week, we're getting you guys ready for the next game. And we're always prepping you for what's ahead, because it's not just negative. It's not just pure blackness. There's always something to look forward to. There's always something to be excited about. So, yeah, a lot of work going forward. There's a lot of stuff the Broncos can do going forward. There's a lot of mistakes they have to correct. There's a lot of positives as well. There's a lot of glimmers of hope as well. A lot of reason to watch this season as well. So don't give up, Bronco Batman. Anyone in Broncos country, keep watching. It's not just for wins and losses. You're watching your favorite team and your favorite players develop and go through the season as they should. Greg jumping in. Nice to see you, Greg. He goes, Chad and Zach, right off the bat, we need a win here in Las Vegas. All my buddies here are Raiders fans mad at me because I wouldn't jump ship to the Broncos. Hashtag go Broncos. Hashtag LVNV. Yeah, I wouldn't give in to them. I think they're having a good season this year, but the Raiders lore does not compete to me with the Broncos lore. And you know what? We'll see Sunday, guys. We'll see Sunday who has the bragging rights, who has the right to talk. Could be the Broncos, could be the Raiders. Going to be a hard-fought game, though. Greg, never give in. Never surrender. What else we got? Is Chad? Someone said he has Chad. I mean...
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Okay. All right. We're rolling with the punches. John, you hear me, right?
I can hear you.
All right. I'm just texting Zach. Bear with us for a second, guys. This has never happened before. This is really bizarre. We'll get back on. Zach will pop back on. Give it just a second here, and we'll be smooth sailing as we roll with these punches.
Yeah.
Here.
So real quick though, if McMahon goes away, who takes his place? Let's say he is let go. They relieve him of his duties. What happens? Who does take his place? Do we have another coach lined up already? Something like that? Do you think?
All right.
All right. There we go. Okay, we're good. All right. We're good. We're good, guys. I really do apologize. I have no explanation. We got no internet problem. It was just like a freeze up, and then I hop back in.
I was talking into the void.
I think the listeners could hear you.
Okay.
And then when I pop back on, they could hear and see me, but you couldn't hear or see me. It was really, really bizarre. So real quick, let me and good job, by the way, rolling with those punches, Zach and John. Appreciate you guys. This is live broadcasting, and sometimes you get the foibles. But let me
StreamYard presented by Dominion Software, Chad. That's all I'm gonna say.
all right, real quick, guys. Let me pull up this article. Now, this is where it went wrong for me the last time. It's never done this before, so fingers crossed that it doesn't happen this time. I think we're good. All right, we're back to regular business.
That was
all right,
fun.
here we go. So let me set the stage on this McManus thing really quick. Today, so McMahon was asked, hey, what about that this decision not to take the 58-yarder? And let me just read this quote to you, Zach, and then I want to read McManus's response on Twitter. This was McMahon's explanation. Quote, well, the big thing, what I do is I give my advice to Vic on where Brandon is during pregame with distance, and coach makes that decision from there. My biggest job is when I see a situation like that, distance at the 42, the 39, the 44-yard line, where I have to get involved, I give him my advice. In that case, he thought about it and made the decision to punt the ball. All right, Brandon McManus tweets, and he's quote tweeting Troy Rank of Denver 7, must have been in a different pregame. The Jets game, New England, I was horrible. Atlanta, I was fire, et cetera. We've already gone through that. So, Zach, I just wanted to give the full update to our listeners. And it's not that McManus isn't justified to have the opinion that he has. He's fully, I think he's right. And the decision was incorrect. I do question slightly. Here's what I'll say. Maybe I'm being, a devil's advocate on this, but I do question the wisdom of the kicker, whether it's a beleaguered special teams coordinator, embattled, whatever you want to call it, highly criticized. I question the wisdom of the kicker just adding to the drama, and anything that could be perceived as subordinate.
There wouldn't be drama, though, if the coordinator was competent and if the head coach can override the incompetent coordinator. So I don't really disagree with McManus. Again, he's being paid to make tough field goals and not being allowed to attempt tough field goals. He's a gamer, too. Kickers live for that, Chad. It's like a Hail Mary pass from a quarterback. They live to make the big kicks, and McManus wasn't allowed. And that's an ongoing theme. We saw it last year. We saw it this year. The denominator here is Tom McMahon. And they all know what we know. They know McMahon is in way over his head. He's not a good coordinator. He's hurting the Broncos, and now it's extending to the Broncos field goal team. So it's not ideal that McManus, of all people, the Broncos spokesman, is speaking out here, but it's telling that it's not just us. We're not the ones that are biased against the coaching staff or Tom McMahon. We're not the ones that are creating these assertions. This is in the locker room. This is in Dove Valley, and it's starting to leak out now.
Indeed. There's so much more to get to on this topic. I want to get to also some of the developments in terms of practice availability, which way some of the injured guys are trending, some of the other storylines out of today's Broncos media availability. And, of course, we want to get back to what's on your mind, but we do have to take care of some really quick matters of business because, usually we get to this a little bit earlier in the show, but Zach has a very key and important message for each and every one of you.
Let's hope this goes okay. Tonight's live stream podcast, guys, is brought to you by sportsbetting.com. Broncos country, listen up. Gambling is now legal in the state of Colorado, and here's what makes sportsbetting.com a no-brainer for sports fans and you. First of all, sharp odds and low juice. In-house bookmakers, not a third-party provider of odds, reduced juice, and best prices, guys. Best prices out there. Hassle-free bonuses. You get a one-time rollover. That's all. One time. That means the bonus money is yours after you bet it just one time, whereas other sites and competitors range from 5 to 30 times. Big difference there. Finally, 24/7 live customer support. You are always reaching a real human being in the U.S. when you want a real human being in the U.S. But here's the kicker. At sportsbetting.com, you get 100% risk-free week of sports betting up to $1,000. Not just one bet, but all of your bets, guys. Play for a week, and if your loss exceeds your winnings at the end of the week, sportsbetting.com will cover 100% of the difference up to $1,000 with a one-time rollover. So head on over to sportsbetting.com/milehighhuddle. That's sportsbetting.com/milehighhuddle and capitalize on a risk-free week of sports betting up to $1,000.
Amen. Really quick, guys. We're going to just run through some very, very quick shout outs on social media. Connect with the podcast on Twitter @HuddleUpPod, and then the main account @Mile High Huddle. Check out the merch store when you get a chance. If you're in a position to, get your swag on huddleuppod.com. Easy to remember. Get yourself a football priest hat. There's t-shirts, there's mugs, face masks, little something for everybody. And it's another way to support what we're doing here. at MHH. And then also for our Facebook community, which continues to grow exponentially. If you'd like to become an official supporter, just go to the page, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. See the big blue button that says become a supporter. Click that. You're in like Flynn. We do have some big plans for our Facebook supporter group coming up here in the near future. And it's just another way to support what we're doing here for our Facebook community, similar to being a Super Chat superstar, but on Facebook. And if you're not in a position to do those things, it's all good. Each and every one of you can do these 3 things. And we humbly, Zach and I, ask that you do. Subscribe first and foremost, then like this video or like this podcast, which is especially crucial on YouTube and Facebook. And then the litmus test is if Zach and I are doing a good job, if you think we're doing a good job for you, share this video, this podcast out there on your social media. Help us continue to grow and reach new like-minded listeners just like you. And then, Zach, I want to grab this phenomenal message here from Zeus, an MHH Mount Rushmore superstar. We love Stu McPeak. We call him Zeus. You guys know him. You love him as much as we do. And he's just checking in, saying hi, Zach, and showing that support, that unwavering passion and support for the community and for MHH.
Appreciate you, Stu, as always. Hope your Thursday night is going spectacularly.
All right. I'm not sure exactly what super chat messages as I'm going through this that I might have missed while we had our little snafu there at the top of the show, but
we caught that.
We did get Bronco Batman. Okay.
Yep.
My bad there. So as we move on through to whatever's on your mind, and John, keep an eye out for everybody, anything and everybody. Let's try and be as across the board as we can. Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, our superstars. Real quick, Zach, I want to touch on today's practice report in terms of which way the arrow is ticking for some of the injured players. It's not looking good, I'll be honest with you, for DeMar Dotson at right tackle. Now, he's nursing the groin, which is what cost him, why he exited week 9 in Atlanta. And he also has a hand injury. He did not practice Wednesday. He did not practice Thursday. And then also complicating this is Jake Rogers, who replaced him in Atlanta, is banged up and did not practice today. And then we got a mysterious tweet, which now makes sense in light of all this, from Calvin Anderson, the third, well, actually, I guess I would say the 4th string tackle. He had an interesting tweet. It looks like he's on deck, Zach, to be your starting right tackle going against the Raiders. What do you think of that prospect?
If you count Juwan James, he's the 5th string tackle this season. And you know what? I will say this, anyone but Elijah Wilkinson. Calvin Anderson won't be great. They have a really good pass rush, the Raiders. Max Crosby, that front 7 is really, really good, better than most people realize. I don't care if it's Rodgers. I don't care if it's Calvin Anderson. Chad, I don't care if it's Mike Munchak getting out there. Anyone but Eli Wilkinson. So we've seen the worst. Nothing can be as bad as what we saw the first couple weeks.
Hey, man, might as well see what Munch has left in the tank. He was a Hall of Fame guard. I mean, he wasn't a tackle, but hey, you never know. Austin Schlottman, for what it's worth, limited yesterday, full participant today. Timmy P, they're just kind of keeping an eye on him with that hamstring, limited. I would expect him to play on Sunday. And then Noah Fant looks like he's back in the saddle, limited yesterday, full participant today. The good news is Bryce Callahan seems to be with that mysterious ankle injury that cost him week 9. He seems to be trending in the right direction. AJ Bouye was a full participant today. He is fully out of concussion protocol, so that's great news. And then Jerry Jeudy, it's a little bit concerning. He popped up on the injury report yesterday, did not practice. He was limited today, and then we found out from Coach Fangio during media availability yesterday. I don't think we got a chance to talk about this, but he did ding up his shoulder in that Falcons game. So, he's young, and when you're young, bodies recover a lot quicker, I should say, from injury. So hopefully Jerry Jeudy should be good to go.
It's a contusion. It's not a torn shoulder. Right. I mean, it's a simple flesh wound. He should be able to play Sunday and be 100% or very, very close to it. No concern there.
We also learned that the Raiders' #1 off-ball linebacker today, Corey Littleton, was placed on the word that shall go unmentioned list. I'm still paranoid about saying the CV word because of how badly it went for our channel and across the different social media platforms that we stream back when this whole, hit the fan in March and April. So I'm still very careful, but he's got the bug. Let's just put it that way, or at least he's in the protocol. So that's one, I guess, saving grace that the football gods have opened up the windows, poured out a blessing to the Broncos. The Raiders will be without their #1 linebacker. But if you look at this injury report, and then we'll move on here back to the stream, Rodney Hudson, full go on Thursday. He's going to be their center. Maurice Hurst, who's been a thorn in the Broncos side at different times over the last couple of years, he has not practiced this week. Neither has starting left tackle Colton Miller. You look across the board here, they're pretty banged up as well, Zach. Darren Waller, though, has been nursing the back. Looks like he's on track to play. It'll be interesting, including Jonathan Abram, their first-round safety who missed most of his rookie year last year. He's been playing really well this year. He's on track to play as well.
Yeah, I just see Jeff Heath on there, Malik Collins. I'm having bad Cowboys flashbacks right now. But one player I want to single out right there is the fullback Alex Ingold. He is the leading blocker for Josh Jacobs. I forget the exact injury. I see he's listed with the ribs. He might have had a rib contusion or might have strained a muscle. I saw that he's going to play through it, though. So they're going to have their lead blocker in there. And the Raiders are at mostly full strength. They have a lot of injuries, but the talent they do have on the field is going to make it tough for the Broncos this week, Chad. Not going to be an easy game.
There's a question here, and I'm recognizing this, Zach, from yesterday. Ashish, what do you guys think? Is Drew Lock going to be a $40 million franchise quarterback? Had high expectations for this offense this year, but very disappointed so far. Where will Elway go if Lock really disappoints this year? It hurts to see Justin Herbert play so good, even if they're not winning much right now, talking about the Chargers. So a little quarterback envy persists in some of the ranks of Broncos country, Zach, as it applies to Locke versus Herbert. As to the question of, is he going to be a $40 million per year franchise quarterback? We don't know yet. I still think that the tools are there, and I want this kind of is a good opportunity to segue into some of the things Pat Shurmur had to say today. But what's your off-the-cuff answer here for Chish?
Well, first of all, don't be envious of Justin Herbert. If there's one quarterback in the West you should be envious of, it's Patrick Mahomes. But even beyond that, Drew Lock is his own guy. And like Chad mentioned, it's way too premature to make a call one way or the other. If he doesn't pan out this year, if they finish the year with 6 or 7 wins and he's not really doing anything overly impressive, I think the Broncos will bring in a quarterback, whether that's a rookie or a veteran, I do not know. They're going to give Locke the first chance. This is all my speculation. They're giving the first chance to win the job. But Elway, if he's the GM going forward, there's so many dominoes here, Chad, that have to fall before we know anything. Assuming he's the GM, though, next year, he can't go into the season solely relying on Drew Lock. Whether he can be that guy, we do not know. He needs more time. $40 million a year quarterbacks. There's only, 2 of them in the NFL right now, Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. It's rarefied air. I'd be happy if Locke could be the franchise guy before he's the $40 million annual guy.
Eric Trickle published a quarterbacks 2021 draft quarterbacks article today, and I think it might rub some fans wrong that we're looking at 2021 and quarterbacks. I wouldn't read too much into that because no matter which way you slice it, the Broncos are going to be looking at quarterbacks next year. It's just a matter of how Drew Lock finishes this season. His trajectory and ultimately how he closes 2020 will determine what tier of quarterbacks the Broncos are looking at. Because even though, Brett Rippon showed out well as a Band-Aid backup, the Broncos are going to have to keep bringing in fresh blood at the quarterback position moving forward until it's just a bulletproof position. And one of the cliches in the NFL, it's not even a cliche. It's a philosophy is that, you draft at least one quarterback a year. Now, not every NFL team honors that or stays true to that, but there's a reason why they say that even when you have your guy. I mean, look at the Patriots, right? They ended up with Jimmy G and parlayed that into a second-round pick, and they had Tom Brady. Yeah, he was getting long in the tooth, but it just goes to show you why you want to keep the bottom of the roster the bottom of the depth chart as it relates to the quarterback position churning. Now, Zach, really quick, I want to get this response from offensive coordinator Pat Shurmur today, and he was asked, it was his last question at the podium, and forgive me, I forget now who it was in the media pool that asked this question, but it was basically, hey, Pat, what do you see as far as trajectory for Luck? Is he trending in the right direction? Because all we can see is from the outside looking in, struggles in the first and second and third quarter, and then, teams go into prevent and out come these fireworks offensively. He scored 6 touchdowns in the last 2 fourth quarters. And it's a little bit long, Zach, but I want to read this real quick and then I'm going to serve it over to you. Here's what Shurmur said, quote, "I see good things throughout the game. Whether it's the TV broadcast or fans, you point to the negative things throughout. It's an easy thing to do as you have a guy learning how to play this game at this level. That's part of it. Throughout the game, he did some really good things, and then there were some mistakes that you just keep cleaning up. For the quarterback, it's not really quarters in the game. It's quarters for the season. I've seen steady improvement from him each week. There are certain things that all quarterbacks need to do. They need to be consistent, but they need to be able to take advantage of big throws and make big throws, and he has done that. He's made some big-time throws. If you just sit down and watch the game critically, he made some really good throws the other night that we just didn't connect on for whatever reason, and I alluded to some of it earlier in his podium. Then there were some things you have to clean up. We weren't protected right on the one interception. He just has to eat it or throw it away, and he'll learn that. But that's that basketball player in his driveway going to try to make that fadeaway jumper, right? The fadeaway throw. So that's human nature and part of the maturity process. The growing process is to know the next time that happens, that's not my reaction. I either eat it or put it somewhere where nobody gets it, and then you get back in the huddle and call another play. I don't know if I'm answering your question. This is just kind of a stream of consciousness here, but that's sort of it. So, Zach, the point being, though, that from the outside looking in, there are some obvious and evident struggles.
Yes,
Locke, but Shurmur, maybe it is. Maybe it is. Is this just a case of Pat Shurmur trying to protect his job, or is this a classic case, I submit to you, Zach, of a coordinator who sees the full perspective, right? Everyone's so impatient on the outside, especially with the QB envy that's going on in the fan base, and you see all this other stuff. Is this a guy that is reflecting the overall tonality and perspective of the team where they're being patient, they're taking it one quarter of the season at a time?
I'm not going to give him that much credit for having that much foresight. Whatever he said about Drew Lock and his mistakes are ultimately a reflection on Pat Shurmur. He needs to be the one to teach him and drill into his head to throw the ball away or to eat it or to whatever. And everything he said was so surface level. Every answer he gives, he said nothing there in that giant paragraph chat. He said nothing. They were just words. It's all philosophical with him. There's no practicality. There's no pragmatism with Pat Shurmur. And it wasn't in that quote, but I saw it on Twitter. He made the analogy that the first 4 weeks of the season were like preseason. It's week 10 now. What is the excuse? He's looking for different things. Locke's young. We have new players. He has to learn. It's on you as the quarterback whisperer, as a two-time former head coach and a great offensive mind to drill that into him. What does it say that he hasn't taken one step forward? And he mentioned the things that Locke has improved on. Like what? What has Locke really improved on under Shurmur's watch? I want to know. One thing out there.
Just reading not so much reading between the lines, reading the actual content of what he said. The only thing he really pointed to that Locke, in his opinion, that he said publicly today anyway, has improved on, right? He talked about steady improvement, is the big-time throws. He has made some big-time throws. And
last year.
You're just not seeing it consistently, though, and that's where the rubber meets the road. So let's grab, we'll come back to this, but let's grab Hello Bruh on YouTube. It says, kind of turning the shifting gears here topically to say, I'm kind of scared the Broncos won't bring back Courtland Sutton because of Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler, Zach.
They have to, because neither of them through 9 weeks has shown consistent, dominant wide receiver one traits. The only way that was a possibility, and I wrote about this before the season, the only way that was going to happen is if Jerry Jeudy literally balled out this year, like 1,500 yards and 12 touchdowns. That hasn't happened. Courtland Sutton, the Broncos brain trust knows he is far and away the best receiver on this team, and his absence, Chad, is speaking volumes. For me, it's a lot like the Cowboys and Prescott. Once they lost him, they realized how valuable he was to that offense. The Broncos are realizing how valuable Courtland Sutton is to this receiving core. So no, he's coming back.
Yeah, he's definitely coming back. I mean, 2018, 2019, so this was year 3. He's going to get his contract year, and unless he has some kind of complication from this ACL or doesn't really bounce back to form, or, God forbid the Broncos end up having more quarterback tumultuous situation and it affects the position, I could see down the road that complicating whether or not to bring back a Courtland Sutton when you have a Jeudy and a Hamler for another couple of years. But I concur with Zach overall on a macro level. Why would you? Yes, it's an embarrassment of riches, but if Locke's going to end up being the guy you think he is as a team, as a franchise, John Elway, Vic Fangio, Pat Shurmur, these guys still believe in Locke. Now, it might be tenuous, and that belief might run out 8 weeks from now if he doesn't turn the ship around and really show some consistency, but they do believe in Locke. And, Zach, if you believe in Locke, you got to keep that arsenal stocked. And first and foremost, it's Courtland Sutton. I mean, you might not be able to keep everyone and pay everyone. When you look across the board, Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Noah Fant, just those 4 guys eventually here in the next 3 years or so, that's going to add up to a pretty significant outlay on the salary cap. And that doesn't count whatever the future might hold for Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon. So definitely some tough decisions. Obviously, they're not going to be able to keep everybody, but Courtland Sutton's a guy, I think at this point, if you're going to say who's the safest among them all, it's probably Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, and then Noah Fant.
Yeah, I just think, though, like I wrote, the Broncos didn't assemble this big three just to tear it apart after 1 year. And they haven't even had a chance to see him and all together with Sutton's injury. So he's not going anywhere. He's far and away still the best receiver on this team.
Shout out to Greg Smith rocking the Let 'em Hate t-shirt like a boss, repping Broncos in Vegas in enemy territory. Appreciate you, my friend. He says, Chad and Zach, right off the bat, we need a win here in Las Vegas. All my buddies are Raiders fans and mad at me because I wouldn't jump ship. Hashtag go Broncos, hashtag LV, Las Vegas, Nevada. Yeah, I mean, look, here's the good news for you, Greg. The Broncos have split with the Raiders now, dating back 5 consecutive years. So the odds point to this being another split type season. The question is that split going to be with the Broncos winning in Vegas or the Broncos winning at home?
Right.
The odds makers don't like their chances this week, Zach, but I'm still optimistic that the Broncos can come in here, and all it really takes is this offense playing at a competent average level. If they can play at a competent average level, Zach, all things are possible.
Yeah, Greg, we took this question, Chad, when we were hopping out, but I want to say, Greg,
Okay.
Greg, keep talking, win or lose. Even if they lose Sunday, keep representing your team. Don't jump ship. Don't give in to them, because as good as the Raiders appear this year, it's always a mirage. They're like the Bills of the AFC West. They're always going to collapse. So take some comfort in that.
Chris Hernandez, a 24-year veteran of the Air Force and a bona fide MHH superstar, jumping in on Super Chat. Appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you, Chris.
He says, bold predictions for this Sunday. And as always, click those little thumbs up. We do appreciate the thumbs up, gang. It does help us on YouTube and Facebook, especially. Zach, I'm gonna tap myself on the back here just a little bit, because even though I got my pick wrong last week and I picked the Broncos to beat the Falcons, the one thing in my bold predictions in the Mile High Roundtable was I predicted Jerry Jeudy was going to have his pop game. And, he left 2 big plays on the field. He could have had an even bigger day. It could have been closer to 9 receptions, 160 yards and a touchdown, maybe 2 touchdowns if one of those 2 plays turns out the way it should have. But nevertheless, it's his first 100-yard receiving game. He gets the touchdown and all that. So my instinct was right on Jerry Jeudy. As far as a bold prediction for this Sunday, what do you got? Anything off the cuff? I'm still marinating on this a little bit. I'm gonna give Chris an answer, but I'm
yeah. It's I can go a few different ways on this. I haven't really put too much thought into whether the Broncos are going to win or lose Sunday. I do think they're not going to let Derek Carr kill them through the air. They're not going to let Darren Waller go off. I think it's going to be a good defensive performance. I can see Phillip Lindsay popping off for 150 and 2 touchdowns, Chad, against that Raiders D. I can see Drew Lock having a 300-yard game. I think my bold prediction is I think the Broncos offense will explode this week. And whether that's a win or a shootout loss, I think we'll see Locke really establish himself with a no-doubt performance.
It's funny you say that, dude. And we did not pre-coordinate this, because my instinct, what it was drawing me toward, my gut, was to say that this was going to be the pop game for Locke, where he comes out and silences all the critics. And I don't mean with just another prolific fourth quarter, but he plays well, puts up some volume throughout the game. So I'm going to roll with that. And I'll include it in the written version of the Mile High Roundtable, and we publish that tomorrow at milehighhuddle.com. So you heard it first, and we'll see how it shakes out, Zach.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good day for the Broncos offense. Their defense, though, whether they can contain Derek Carr and the Raiders offense, which is weird to say, Chad, but they have some weapons. I just think for the offense for Denver, it's going to be a nice bounce back on Sunday.
Excuse me. Noah Fant for Hundo for Kenneth.
I can see that for sure.
Did we grab Kenneth's question? So I'm still not quite understanding, John, what you're telling me. Okay, we did. Good. Here we go. So this is from Kenneth Booker, who pre-submitted a question. Now, Zach, I know this predates your time on the Broncos beat, and you did not grow up a Broncos fan. For those of you who don't know the entire back history of Zach and the Broncos, that's not how it shook out. But maybe you have a creative answer for this as someone coming out at it from a different angle. But Kenneth Booker's question, he's a stud. We love him. He's a superstar. He says, if they made a movie about Super Bowl 32, of course, that was Elway's first win, right, against Brett Favre and the Packers, what actors would you cast? So if I'm going to cast that, Zach, right, I'm going to find an actor for Elway. I'm going to find an actor for Terrell Davis. I'm going to find an actor for Steve Atwater, probably. I'm trying to think. I'm missing someone. Rod Smith, maybe. But as someone coming at this maybe from a different angle, do you have an answer? Do you have any actors that jump out? Who would you cast for Elway? Let me start with that.
This is not an insult. I'm talking about the past version of this guy, not the current version, but Gary Busey. I think it's a really close similarity. Chad, he was a great actor in his time. He's crazy now on Lobotomy Island, but I think he can fit that part pretty well.
Definitely the grill, right? The teeth.
I didn't want to say
it when he smiles.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's a tough question. I would. I can't remember the dude's name, and now I mentioned it to John. But did you guys ever see the show on Netflix called Narcos? There were two. Jamie Foxx for Sharp. Yeah, Shannon Sharp's another guy that would definitely have to get cast. Good point.
That's good. I like
Hall
that.
of Fame. But do you remember did anyone ever watch the show on Netflix, Narcos? In the first season, it had Pedro Pascal as the one FBI agent, or what? Not FBI, ATF agent, and then the other dude, the blonde dude. I don't know that guy's name, the actor. He was also in like a Predator Alien movie. I don't know this dude's name, but he's a guy that I would maybe consider casting as John Elway, because if you're going to cast the role, you can't do one of these end around, Zach, where it's a 6'3" athlete and you cast 5'6" Tom Cruise, to play
jumping on couches. Yeah. For Terrell Davis, though, I'm thinking Idris Elba. I don't know how many people know him. I think that's a pretty close comparison. He's a great actor, and I think he'd fit the TD role really well. Good question. That's fun.
His role in The Wire, Stringer Bell, baby. John, for what it's worth, he's thrown out Lawrence Fishburne for Neil Smith. All right, so he put some thought into this for you, Kenneth, and I don't know, man. I'm trying to think who else. Not a whole lot of like huge athlete guys. I'm trying to think back to actors. I mean, like Allstate commercial guy for Alfred. So he's talking about Pedro Serrano, right? Bats are sick.
Mojo,
the guy that plays Machete, is Atwater. I don't know about that, dude. I don't know about that one. But anyway, very fun, creative question. Thanks, and we love you, and appreciate you, Kenneth.
That is really fun. I'm still thinking.
We got to moving on to another question here from Kenneth via super chat. He says, "Appreciate you, my friend." He says, "Should we draft Leatherwood or Surtain?"
No question.
I think it's Surtain, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would go with Surtain, but as you guys know, Zach and I are not the draft Nick analysts of MHH, so I don't really start diving deep into the draft until, I'll be honest with you, till about January. I keep an eye on it, but it's not. We are so busy covering the team and the content and the storylines and the news every day. We just don't have time. That's why we have guys that do that for us, right, at MHH, and that's Eric Trickle. He's the lead draft guy. Nick Kendall, Carl Dumler. That's their wheelhouse. But what's your answer, Zach?
Yeah, I haven't even started to think about the draft just yet for next year. But if it's a tackle versus a cornerback, I'm always taking the offensive lineman. I'm always taking the tackle. And like I said going into the offseason, regardless of Locke, the way he plays, offensive line and tackle in specific has to be the number one target. Surtain is going to be a great NFL player, but in terms of value, you go for the lineman any day of the week.
Look, I know that I had a little bad string of luck there with the internet, but I've developed this reputation, it would seem, in the community for having bad internet service. I assure you tonight was not an internet problem. It was just it was the browser crashed. What's weird about it, Zach, is it must be a StreamYard thing, because I think it was on my end, because it was my browser that crashed. And thank you for the super chat, my dog. But it also affected your side, and we're in the same stream, obviously, but he's coming at it from a different geographic location. So I think in this case, we have to blame StreamYard, who we love. StreamYard's been great to us, and they do a great job, but it wasn't the hardware, and it wasn't the internet connection. Not tonight.
It was a coup is what it was.
Indeed. All right. Brian Ware jumping in. Appreciate you, Brian. And
thank you, Brian.
Is a name that we're not familiar with on Super Chat, so thank you. Welcome, Brian. He says, what are the chances that Peyton Manning becomes the offensive coordinator for the Broncos? 0. Doesn't seem like he's done. It doesn't seem like he's done yet, since he's always around the team. Guys, Peyton Manning, if he does enter the NFL, it's not going to be as a coach. That's such a grind. It's not that I couldn't see him doing it. from a philosophical perspective, but it's such a grind. Coaches eat, sleep, live. It's football 24/7. And look, he did that for 25 years of his life. If he were to do something football oriented, Zach, it would be front office or ownership, definitely not coaching.
It's beneath him. And I hate to say that, but being a coordinator is it's not even a high-end job in the NFL in the hierarchy. Why would Peyton Manning do that? If anything, if he's going to come back to the NFL actively full-time, it's going to be as an owner or a president of a team, not as a coordinator, not as a head coach. So any Broncos fans still holding on hope for that, you should just kind of kiss that dream goodbye.
And Brian, we do appreciate the question, and it's common in terms of Peyton Manning remains on fans' minds for obvious reasons, but especially because, as you point out there, he's around the team still quite a lot, and he maintains his primary residence still in Denver. So we do understand why that might be on your mind, but rule it out. It ain't going to happen, my friend. It really isn't. Let's grab here real quick J.R. Caprone on Facebook. He says, with all the injuries and the coaching situation, do you honestly see us coming out of Vegas with a win? If not, what do you think needs to happen after? Zach, I don't know how much thought you've put into your prediction for Week 10 at the Raiders. This is as good a time as any if you want to debut your pick. But do you see the Broncos beating the Raiders this week?
I see the Broncos. I'm going to save you guys. The answer right now. Keep you guys in suspense for the article tomorrow. I see the Broncos putting up a good fight. I'm not as confident as I was for the Falcons game last week. I thought that would be mostly in the bag for Locke and the Broncos offense. I'm not so much worried about him. As always, Chad, it's always about the Broncos coaching. If Pat Shurmur can take his own advice and be aggressive and coach the Locke strengths, they can beat the Raiders. So I'm not going to say win or loss yet. I will say it's a close game, and I will say this has the true potential for, like you said, the Locke first quarter to fourth quarter pop game for the young quarterback.
Let me answer it this way, JR or Junior. I don't know how you're rolling with your handle there, but let me tell you the reasons why the Broncos could win this game. So if they win this game, here's why they'll win. Drew Lock and the offense explode. All right. They get down to business and they do what they have within their potential to do. And that's produce points, yards, get it done. If they lose this game, it's going to be because they couldn't stop the run. The Raiders out physical them. And that's a very distinct possibility this week, gang. And I don't say that to depress you because any given Sunday, right? And stranger things have happened. And as it stands, Drew Lock 1-0 going against Derek Carr and the Raiders. But nevertheless, you're without Shelby Harris again this week. He's in the protocol as he tested positive for the virus. You don't have Mike Purcell. You don't have Jarrell Casey. So it would take another Herculean effort from Draymond Jones, from DeMarcus Walker, from Deshaun Williams, Sylvester, and all those guys. And even though I think
the inside linebackers.
Yes, and the off-ball dudes. I agree with that. But this is a different animal than the Falcons. Todd Gurley's on his last legs. That Falcons offensive line is nowhere near the physical juggernaut unit that the Raiders have. When they're on, and they're physical, and they move. I mean, they get push off the line of scrimmage, and I'm just not certain, Zach, the Broncos have the horses up front to withstand that. But again, it's Bill Collar's unit, and they proved a lot last week, so it's just a matter of doing it again this week. We'll see.
It's a really good point you made, and it's true. This Josh Jacobs ground game, and it's not just him. They're dominant. The offensive line is just so made to win in the trenches. They're such an imposing offensive line, even without Trent Brown. But it's not just Jacobs, and it's weird to say this, but Devontae Booker, the former Broncos running back, is averaging, I think, 6.8 yards per carry for the Raiders this season. He's going to be in a revenge game against Denver. He's going to be fired up to do well. They have a great fullback at end goal. They have great weapons on the outside in Ruggs. They have Waller. They have Bryan Edwards. This is not going to be an easy game for the Denver defense. But like Chad said, not having Shelby Harris, not having Purcell, you're already at a disadvantage. Then you have inside linebackers like Johnson and Jewell. They have to play the game of their lives, or else they're going to get just blown off the ball for 4 quarters.
Let's just take a quick look here at some offense-to-offense comparisons, and starting with just the turnover margin. Both teams are struggling in this department. The Broncos are worse. They're -7. That means they've turned the ball over 7 times more than they've taken it away. And the Raiders haven't been much better. Only 3 less times have they done that. But they're -4. Time of possession because of that ground game, as you guys can see there. The Raiders are a top 10 offense in holding on to the ball. And then we get to the offense here, Zach, and outside of rushing, as you can see, they're a top 10 rushing offense, 131 yards per game. Derek Carr is Derek Carr. He rarely turns the ball over.
Wow, 2 picks.
He doesn't take a lot of chances, and sometimes that's to the offense's detriment because you want him to take more chances downfield if you're a Raiders guy. Sometimes it's to their benefit, and I think up to this point he's been able to walk that razor's edge quite well. And giveaways, they've only given the ball away 9 times comparatively to the Broncos, as you can see here. Bottom, only 2 teams worse than Denver in giveaways. 16 times they've given the ball away. And then third down, they're right there, man. This is a tough team to stop on third down. And the reason why, Zach, comes right back up here, rushing.
Right.
They keep third down manageable. So for the Broncos, what we know about Derek Carr, this is an opponent that is very familiar to this team. If you can stop the run, and it's a tall task with the personnel you have this week, but if you can stop the run and give Derek Carr some third and longs, take away Darren Waller, and you've got you've won the lion's share of that battle. You're a good chance of getting off the field on third down. But just look, conversely, and then I want to serve this back over to you, Zach. Net yards per game, Broncos 26th, yards per play 26, points per game 27th. Rushing, middle of the pack. Last week did not help them much in that department, by the way. Passing, bottom third. Giveaways, we already gone over that. Third down. Now, they've started to show some improvements in this area, but as you can see, the last 2 weeks, what they've improved on in third down, because their preceding 6 games were so bad, they're still ranked 29th. And then red zone, another area that they have improved significantly in the last 2 games, but they're still bottom third. So, Zach, that's a head-to-head look here at these 2 different offenses.
And here's what the Raiders offense is. It's ground and pound. They're very efficient. They don't turn it over. They set up, like you mentioned, Chad, third and shorts. They move the chains. They dominate time of possession, and they score touchdowns for the most part. So like Chad mentioned, if you stop the ground game, you stop Josh Jacobs, which is easier said than done completely, you can take advantage of the weapons they have on the outside. You have to shadow Darren Waller. You got to keep an eye on Henry Ruggs, but you got to get to Derek Carr. You got to make this game uncomfortable for the Raiders and hit them in the mouth, knock them off their own game, make them be a finesse team, not a power team. The Denver defense can do that, Chad. If they can slow down Mahomes, they can slow down Derek Carr. But will they do that? That's always the question.
But it's also that same reason why the Raiders have been successful on third down is the exact same reason why the Broncos have been so piss poor. I mean, look at last week as a perfect case in point. There was one play in the first half. It's 1st and 10. Phillip Lindsay gets tackled for a 5-yard loss. Now you're at 2nd 15. The odds of you moving the chains on that possession by the time you get to third down, they're slim to none. All right. It's just very low probability, very low percentage. So that was something that Pat Shurmur talked about today in terms of what's the emphasis. How do you start fixing some of these issues? And he was not wrong. Now, you could say it's convenient or it's expedient for him to say this, but it's true nonetheless, Zach, and that is the Denver Broncos can solve so many of their offensive issues if they can just simply do better on 1st and 2nd down.
Yes.
One thing that really surprised me is that both Vic Fangio and Pat Shurmur, when asked about it this week, said that the interior, talking about Dalton Risner, Lloyd Cushenberry, and then whoever's at right guard, whether that's Graham Glasgow or Austin Schlottman, they're giving them passing marks. And I'm telling you right now, gang, we've been trying to tell you this now for a month. That interior has been extremely disappointing. They've been bad, downright atrocious at times. And they're the reason, if we're being frank, why the Broncos ground game has struggled to get traction on 1st down. So if they can somehow dig deep and turn that around sooner than later, you can start seeing, and this is another thing Zach Shurmur talked about, they've been really good, the Broncos. If you break down third down into different distances, so 3rd and short, 3rd and intermediate, 3rd and long. The Broncos in 3rd and short and 3rd and intermediate have been very good this year. It's the 3rd and longs, surprise, surprise, where they've struggled.
Yeah, they can't put themselves in those situations. And fortunately, Chad, the Raiders are easier to be had on the ground than through the air. I'd rather take my chances running it down their throat than having locked back there against the right tackle they have, the right guard they have, the line they have. But it's an indictment. Let me just say one more point. It's an indictment on Pat Shurmur. You scroll back up, Chad. There's no green. There's literally, how many green categories do the Broncos have? 1? No, none. 0 green. They are more red than even black. So that's an indictment. Again, I mentioned this earlier. He wants to talk about Drew Lock and placing the blame on him and putting the buck on him. He needs to look in the mirror. There's a reason why they're that bad. And it starts, as always, with the coaches.
Defensively, let's take a quick gander here in comparison. The Raiders, gang, surprise, surprise, suck on defense. All right. They do have a few horses. You know, their Max Crosby as an edge guy is always a threat, and he had a couple of really good games last year against the Broncos. But let's just take a quick look. The Broncos defensively, they're middle of the pack in terms of net yards. Top 10, though, in yards per play. That means they're a stingy defense, okay? Points per game, they're low, right? They're giving up 27, and a lot of that has to do with the turnover differential in terms of, you know, the Broncos giving their opponent additional possessions in short fields. That ain't on the defense, right? The defense is a bend, don't break type of defense, but when they're giving the opponent that many short fields and turnovers and additional possessions, it just doesn't come out well in the wash, even if you're the 85 Bears, all right? Teams are going to get field goals. All right, points per game, you can see their net rushing. Broncos are kind of middle of the road, both as a passing and a rushing defense. Interceptions, you want to see these takeaways improve, Zach. And I think if the offense could really start pulling its head out and getting out to some – it doesn't have to be multi-score leads like the Falcons did last week for their defense, but if you can get out to even a one-score lead in the first half, it changes the complexion and the priorities defensively for Bradley Chubb and Malik Reed and all those guys, and it takes the pressure off and it allows them to act a little bit more freely and thus perhaps force more interceptions and force more takeaways. But here's the crowning achievement, gang. Down here, these last three statistics for Vic Fangio: no Von Miller, no Jarrell Casey, no AJ Bouye for most of the season. Go on down the line, right? Most of the most grievous injuries this year, the majority of them have been on the defensive side, and yet they're top 10 in sacks. They're ranked 8th with 22. Third down percentage, they're number 5. That's great. Red zone, they're second. So, Zach, defensively, this is good. But look, for the Raiders, I mean,
how much red?
It's like look at the Broncos' weakness, it's offense, and then look at the Raiders' weakness, it's defense. That portends well for this being Drew Lock's pop game, Zach.
It looks like my high school, one of my exams, all the red marks on it, Chad. But here's what's going to come down to the game. If you scroll up to the Raiders' third down percentage on offense versus the Broncos' defense, the Broncos are 5th, and I believe the Raiders are second. So that's going to come down to the key of the game there. Whichever unit, the Broncos defense or the Raiders offense, can get on the field or get off the field. Whoever does better on third down, it's going to be a ground and pound, maybe a hard-fought, hard-hitting, low-scoring game. But if there's any opponent left on the schedule for Drew Lock to go off against, look at all that red. They don't do anything overly well, the Raiders defense. They don't get sacks. They don't get interceptions. They don't force fumbles. Look at all that red. If Pat Shurmur can't make hay against this defense, fire him on the spot.
All right, real quick, and then we're going to get right back to the stream. I just want to draw your attention to special teams. Now, the Raiders have not been a good special teams unit, and that's not really why I want to draw your attention to this. The reason why is we were talking about Tom McMahon earlier. Our flow got interrupted with our technical difficulties, but outside of their punt return and their field goal percentage, thanks to Brandon McManus, look at this. It's a horrendous special teams unit. And even Sam Martin, I said this yesterday, hey, at least he's brought competency back to the punting, but this is what competency does for you. It saves you from disaster from Colby Wadman, right, of the last 2 years, but middle of the road, 15th in terms of gross punting average. So anyway, that you can see all the different areas the Broncos need to improve. But the takeaway from our comparison here, Zach, has to be this is Drew Lock's opportunity, man. And as Muhammad jumps in here, one of our superstars, thank you, my brother.
Thank you, Mama.
Zach is on fire today. I love it. #Dragon.
One more little just huff and puff right now. The Broncos field goal percentage was tied for 7th, it says. Real quick, it was top 10.
Field goal percentage, yes. They are 7th.
Yeah, my point in saying this, that's the best thing they do on special teams. You don't allow McManus to kick a field goal. That's on McMahon, and that's on Fangio. That is ridiculous, Chad, honestly.
Well said. And one last thing I want to bring up is we didn't show it, and we'll grab Christie's very generous super here, but both the Raiders and the Broncos are among the league's best in terms of being disciplined penalty-wise. So it's going to be interesting to see which one of those teams cracks.
Right.
The Queen, jumping off the top rope, making her entrance in the grandest way possible. We love you. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Kristen.
On the MHH Mount Rushmore, she says, missed you all last night. Thanks for all your work, guys. F the Raiders. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Right. And as a California resident, Christy, we're going to give you something. I hope the Broncos can give you something to brag about on Sunday. But regardless, it should be a good game. And thank you so much for your generosity, as always.
All right. We are approaching the 1 hour mark, so we got to kind of get through our patient superstars who have been hanging in there. It's the mailbag. Let's get to them. Naj Altaf. Love you, buddy. Really appreciate you. Come on strong the last couple months.
Yeah, quickly becoming a superstar.
He says, brothers, I thought Locke was very impressive in his press conference after the game. He constantly shoulders the blame while praising his teammates. I agree with you. This week, he is going to be special. Yeah, that's one good thing is like you look at some of the highly touted quarterbacks, and even though Locke wasn't a first-round pick, he's got a lot of the expectations of a first-round pick. I'll just put it that way. And when things start deteriorating for these guys, sometimes because they're used to being the man, right? They're used to in college, unquestioned. They are just God tier guys. And then things start going poorly, and they get the questions from the media they don't like, and the cracks start coming out in the facade, right? They start being short tempered, or they start pointing the finger. And Locke, to his credit, as Naj points out here, he's fallen on the sword every time, and credited his teammates up to this point. And so that speaks to the intangibles. And it's another reason why the Broncos remain confident in Locke.
Yeah, it doesn't, override the mistakes he makes on the field, but notice what he's not doing, what he hasn't done, and that's blame the coaching or the play calling, whereas his coach kind of put the emphasis on him. So I like that Locke's a leader through and through, and he takes these losses to heart. That's why Chad and I both feel Sunday could be a special game for him.
Based Gase jumping in. Good to see you, my friend. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
He says, long term, if Locke turns out to be a middle-of-the-road QB like Carr or Alex Smith, will that be enough to contend with Kansas City for the next decade? No. I mean, define contend. Like, really compete for the crown? No. I mean, because look, Derek Carr, this is his second really good year. I know he's got a few Pro Bowls under his belt back when the Raiders were dog crap. And they were kind of like, everyone else is hurt or in the playoffs. Hey, man, do you want to be in the Pro Bowl? He's like, sure, I'll be in the Pro Bowl. So it's on his resume. This is only the second year in Derek Carr's career up to this point that he's really been plus 500 at this point in the season, to be honest with you, like really in the mix in the second half for the postseason. And so it just kind of tells you where being that middle-of-the-road guy gets you. Now, Alex Smith, because that team was so talented around him in Kansas City, and in San Francisco, to be frank with you as well, and because the coaching, especially in KC, Zach, was so top-notch, the Chiefs, with an Alex Smith, could contend. They could be that guy. Couldn't quite get over the hump, but they could at least contend. But what's your answer for base case?
I agree with your premise, but here's where I'm going to be a little contrarian in an optimistic way. With this defense they have now, if they can hold Mahomes in check like they did a couple weeks ago, what missing in that game, the difference was the offense. And if they had a middle-of-the-road quarterback, we've been saying this for 3 years now. If the Broncos had just be consistent quarterbacking under center, just average or good, not even great, not a superstar, not an all-pro, not even Mahomes. If they have that combined with good coaching and their defense, they can win games. I think they can contend in the AFC for a wild card spot. Division with Mahomes, I don't know. But, Chad, with this defense, if you have just a little better offense, you can go toe-to-toe with Kansas City.
And Drew Lock has it in him, guys. He really does. Like, you've seen in the last 2 fourth quarters, he's produced 6 touchdowns, 1 rushing and 5 passing. He can put up the kind of numbers that have caused such a large swath of Broncos country to have QB envy with the likes of the Mahomeses and the Herberts. Yeah. So it's there. They just got to put it all together. Mike Kane jumping in with a question to say, guys, why does PFF and the national media go out of their way to dog on Drew Lock? I understand not being sold yet, but dang. Zach, I boil it down to 2 things. 1, Drew Lock acts like the cock of the walk. He acts like a first-round guy, right, rapping on the sideline, dancing pregame. And that combined with the confirmation bias, because everyone, the narrative on Drew Lock coming out of Missouri last year was, hey, he's talented guy, but inconsistent. He's never going to be the man in the NFL. There's a reason why he fell to the second round. And so everything spins around trying to confirm that with their coverage. All right. And so, especially in the national perspective, they want to portray it in a way that confirms that bias. And so they stick to their guns, they double down, they do their thing. And for a guy like Drew Lock, it's unfortunate, but he has to actually go above and beyond. Like he has to be Justin Herbert, only stack wins on top of the production in order to turn that ship. And he's still a long way from being able to do that in terms of the national.
First of all, I've always kind of lived by this motto, especially in this job, Chad. Nobody hates losers. If you're a loser, nobody hates you. That's why everyone loves PFF. And it's such an arbitrary guideline. It's such an arbitrary grade. The national media, though, to answer the question directly, they're stupid. They're lazy. They put no thought or analysis into their opinions of Drew Lock. They look at a box score like they saw against the Patriots. Oh, he only had this many yards, no touchdowns. He should have had a bigger game. If you watch the game, if you watch the progression, it's a lazy, clickbaity, gotcha society in all realms, political, sports, everything. And that's what the national media does with the Broncos. Partly because of what Chad said, and partly because the Broncos haven't been relevant since 2015. When you're not relevant, you're easy to hate on. But that's why we have the shirt. That's why we have the hashtag. Let them hate. It's what they do best.
Well said, my friend. Here's one from Facebook. We haven't taken too many tonight from Facebook. Jeff Hines says, do you think Gordon was worth the money, or is he a bust? I don't know about the bust aspect of it, I guess define that, but he hasn't justified that contract in our opinion yet.
I mean, I would venture to say he's kind of bust potential. What has he done for this offense? He made one nice catch on the third down. He's fumbled. He hasn't been this game breaker. Phillip Lindsay outshines him on every carry. He's way, way, way overpaid, but I would venture to say he's closer to bust, Chad, than not bust for the Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, could he really ever live up to that contract? I mean, what would it take? 1,500-yard rusher, 15 touchdowns. Like, he would need to be Clinton Portis to justify that.
How about
Clinton
not
Portis
fumbling?
In his prime.
Or a few 100-yard games. I mean, just do something.
Liam J wants to know, if you had to choose one person to fire from the Broncos coaching staff, who would it be?
Oh, man.
Zach, it's taboo when you're in media. It's taboo to call for anyone's head. But since you're asking, we will answer that hypothetically. Probably McMahon right now, of course, is the leader in that clubhouse, but Shurmur's got a long road left to hoe as well.
Yeah, that's 100%. I'm firing McMahon right now, and after the season, I'm saying, hey, Pat Shurmur, see ya.
Catch you on the flip-flop. We'll see. It's going to be really interesting to see how this team coalesces down the stretch. All right, John, we are at 102. Let's see what else we've got here. Dank Buds and Black Metal. It's good to see you, my friend. Jumping in time to time, and when he's in the stream, he shows some love on Super Chat, supporting the cause and supporting the brand. Appreciate you. He says, don't get too down on Locke with the lack of real starts. That frozen rope to Judy on the curl for the touchdown hit his chest so hard, I heard it in FOCO, man. Hashtag Rocket Sosh later. Yeah, dude. This was something Shurmur talked about early on in the conversation. That one long clip I read to you guys earlier in that same presser today, he talked about the dime he dropped to Tim Patrick on the 9 route. I can't remember now. Was it the Falcons game? Yeah, it was the Falcons game. That was very similar, Zach, to that 9 that he dropped to him in Houston. The dude can make some phenomenal throws. And again, it just comes down to trusting his protection, doing better on first down as a team. All right. As a team, that's something they can all do to help Drew. Doing better on first and second down, trusting your protection, because when he sticks to his, when he does trust his protection, stays in the pocket and minds his fundamentals, it's dime, 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 big play, conversion. So we'll see. I mean, it just takes time. And as Dank Bud says here, he needs more time on task. He needs more starts.
Yeah, and Dank Buds, I mean, you're perpetuating what a common sense philosophy I wish most of Broncos country would have on Drew Lock. And I know it takes more than a big arm, a strong arm, but that's going to bail him out of some situations. And you saw it in the week 1. I was trying to think of the word, the premiere game of this season. You saw it in that touchdown to Noah Fant. That was a frozen rope and put it in a spot where only Noah Fant can get it. He has to be better with his accuracy, technique, footwork, this and that, but his arm strength is indisputably elite.
FOCO, Fort Collins. Yeah, I think you're right, John. John was speculating when he says, I heard it in FOCO, the ball hitting Judy's chest, probably Fort Collins. Kenneth jumping in. Good to see you again, my friend. Thank you. We appreciate it. My nightmare. A guy named Booker kills it for the Raiders. Yeah, that's difficult. But here's what I'll say. I am happy. It sucks that it's the Raiders, but it's cool to see Devontae, have some modest success in the NFL. But sucks it's the Raiders.
Right. I'm happy for a lot of former Broncos, like Isaiah McKenzie in Buffalo, Chad. The guys that weren't used right in Denver getting their shots now and being used correctly. I don't think he's going to be a game changer Sunday, but he's going to definitely be fired up for this revenge game matchup.
Richie. If the interior is going so poorly, then why not scheme plays where we zone block more and set the edge?
Coaching.
Well, that's part of the thing, Richie, is these inside-outside zones runs. These are zones. These are zone block plays, and they're not executing. Now, for zone blocking to work, it's the perfect combination of the blockers doing their job, right, and getting to the guys that they need to within their zones and going lateral instead of forward in the power scheme, and the flip side being the backs having the vision to keep an eye on that backside cutback lane, and they just haven't been able. I think on first down, Zach, Pat Shurmur loves inside and outside zone. But on first down, you need to start throwing in some freaking power runs, dude. Like blow dudes off the block. And then on second down, when it's 2nd and 6 and it's, 2nd and 3 or whatever, then you work in some of these inside outside zones where you can afford to, if it doesn't go your way, get stopped for a no gain or get stopped for 1 yard and still have a manageable third down.
I'm just, Chad, I'm just hoping for a screen, a jet sweep, something creative on first down that's not just a run inside or a long pass attempt down the field. But that's the thing with Pat Shurmur. He doesn't really fit the players, utilize their talents to the best of their abilities. He's running Phillip Lindsay inside still, not getting him outside, not getting the ball in KJ Hamler's hands or Jerry Jeudy's hands. It goes down to coaching for me again. It's really all it is.
Pobby, we love you. We miss you. It's so great when you're in the stream. And, talk about being a superstar. She can't be in every single stream, but when she's here, she's showing the love and support, not just to Zach and I and to John, but to you guys as well in Broncos country. She has deep, deep affection for Broncos country. So, Pobby, shout out to you. Hope everything's going well in your neck of the woods.
Thank you, Pobby.
Love you. Appreciate you. And good to see you. All right, Richie, again, we've been drafting small offensive linemen for years. Change? I'm not sure that's true, dog. I mean, outside of Garrett Bowles, let me think about this. Dalton Reisner, maybe smallish for guard. All right, there's 2. Not Cushenberry. Cushenberry's north of 300, easy. I'm trying to think some of the other guys. But if you're running zone, that's what you want. If you're running zone blocking, you want dancing bears. You want the ballerinas. I mean, think back to the Mike Shanahan offensive lines back in the day. Now, granted, different era. And, you had Alex Gibbs on staff running that offensive line in the zone blocking. But, I mean, Ben Hamilton, left guard, or was he right guard? Anyway, guard in the second era of Shanahan. So like the early 2000s, the Jake Plummer era. He was like 260-pound guard, but he was really good. He's not Pro Bowler, but he was a guy that could, give you 16 games week in and week out or year in and year out. And he produced. I mean, even Tommy Nalen was not a huge guy. Right. If you were going to run West Coast zone blocking, which that's what Skangs wanted. First of all, that's what Cougs ran. That's what Skangs wanted. Excuse me. Even Bill Musgrave, who was building off the bones of what Cougs had. And then Skangs, same thing. And then now, of course, similar with Pat Shurmur. That's what you got to do. But unfortunately, up to this point, Zach, it just hasn't worked out well. And I think there are slight tweaks that they can make schematically. Get rid of the inside-outside zones on first down. That'll do a lot in terms of bridging the gap.
How about drafting a tackle? Just one tackle in the draft class, not waiting until the mid-rounds to get a guard. I mean, they have to supplement the position, whether that's a zone guy or a power guy, a big guy, a small guy. Just draft some alignment and stock the cupboard. Stop letting it go so bare every single year.
Shout out to Muhammad jumping in again. He's got the dragon profile pic. Love you, buddy.
Love it. Thank you, Muhammad.
Thank you. All right, guys. We do have to. Oh, Black Knight. Whoops. Sorry, John. Sometimes we're sharing a brain too closely. Black Knight 232 jumping in at the 11th hour as we're about to dip on out of here. Appreciate the support, my friend. He says, I hope Locke does well, but I'm not going to hold my breath. I'm just going to expect a fourth quarter magic trick out of his arse and we win. I mean, that's the thing at this point. What we've learned the last quarter of the season is you just don't know what you're going to get from this Broncos team or from Drew Lock on a week in and week out basis. And that's one of the frustrating aspects of, it's like Zach said, sometimes Zach can be so blunt that it rubs Broncos fans wrong because depending on their mood, but it doesn't make it any less true. Drew Lock, as much as Zach and I still support him and believe that he's got the potential there to turn this around, he hasn't taken the steps forward yet in year 2 that everyone expected him to, including us under Pat Shurmur, who I'll remind everybody, 2-time head coach, failed, yes, but also the 2017 AP Assistant Coach of the Year, one of the most coveted awards handed out in coaching on an annual basis, because it goes only to the assistants. We expected that step forward. We haven't seen it, and that's why this you don't know what you're going to get week in and week out, like Black Knight's pointing to here. You can't hold your breath, but you could still remain hopeful, guys.
Would he have won that award, though, if not for the miracle Vikings play? That's what I'm wondering. I mean, he had a good year with Case Keenum, but is that the reason why he won? Listen, though, to answer the question, Chad, I mean, you can't hold your breath with a quarterback like Locke. He's very erratic, but also with the guy in charge of him, his handlers, Shula and Shurmur. Until we see, and this is my opinion, until we see Locke with a different coordinator, I know he's on the second one now, I just can't get my hopes up too much. I will say, though, of any matchup left on the schedule, this is the game where Locke could pop off, like Chad said, from the opening whistle until the final gun. It could be a big game for Locke on Sunday.
All right, guys, last super chat question, and then we got a dip from Brian Ware again. Thanks, Brian. By the way, make sure you reach out and connect with Zach and I on social media on Twitter so that we can shout you out after this podcast. But he says, what are your guys' thoughts on John Elway? I think he's done a good job building this team. Should he be fired? Should he be fired? I don't think he should be fired. No. I think at this stage you've gone 10 years with John Elway as the front office guy. He brought you home a world championship. He's got 1 year left on his docket and unfinished business with Vic and with Locke. Let him have that last year and decide after 2021. So no. I do think he's done a good job stocking the cupboard. The Broncos, look, if I have one bone to pick with John Elway post Super Bowl 50, it's been his coaching hires, not his and just the struggles to find the right quarterback. Like even with Brock Osweiler, why didn't you just pay him and try and build on that momentum you had coming out of Super Bowl 50? You don't know how that could have turned out. Now, in all likelihood, you probably end up in the similar spot that you're in now, but He's made a few momentous decisions along the way, personnel-wise, that he probably wants back. But by and large, Zach, I think his coaching hires have been the most questionable aspect. But then again, he thought he had his 10-year guy in Koob, and Koob steps down after 2 years after bringing home a world championship. So not everything has been fair, but that's life, and that's the NFL. I think for this team right now, Elway's done about as good as you could expect him to do to stock the cupboards. Then the injury bug comes in and completely cuts the legs out from this team.
I thought Gary Kubiak was a great head coaching hire. He could have been the coach, Chad, for 5 more years at least, and he would have brought them more success than he brought them. In terms of Elway and his status, when you win a title like Chad alluded to, it buys you so much time in the NFL, and he already had that mythical lore to him, being John Elway. Who has the grapefruits in the Broncos front office to fire John Elway, to fire a legend? Joe Ellis will never do it. So until there is an owner that's established, he is safe. In terms of building the roster, I agree his coaching hires are questionable, his quarterback selections are questionable, but this offseason, we were praising him, and for good reason. He did everything to build around a young quarterback as he should have. The only thing he did not do was get a right tackle, but how could you foresee Juwan James opting out? How could you foresee a pandemic? How could you foresee the injuries? You can knock Elway all you want for little micro things, but in terms of 2020 on a macro level, I thought he did a really good job building the team.
With Shanahan, excuse me, David, he goes, can you imagine if we hired Shanahan? You talking Kyle or Mike? Because the Broncos came this close to hiring Mike at the end of 2017, at the end of Vance Joseph's maiden season at 5-11. But we're always going to wonder woulda, shoulda, coulda. But gang, thanks so much for joining us here tonight and rolling with the punches in that first 10-minute segment where we had the technical difficulties. We love you. We appreciate each and every one of you. Mile high salute to our Super Chat superstars and our Facebook supporters. You guys are keeping us going and straight up funding the content here at MHH Central, especially on YouTube. As it relates to the podcast and the video content, that's all you guys. All right, you're bringing that to the table and allowing us to do this for you. So appreciate you guys. Thank you. Love you. Zach and I are done for this week, but we're going to be back in the saddle, of course, Sunday for the Broncos Raiders game. We'll have the halftime live stream. You'll have to let us know on this. We have been kicking around, Zach and I, the idea of doing a live stream for the entire game of Broncos Raiders. If you want to see that happen where we do a watch along with you guys, let us know. Hit us up on social media. Tell us
raise your hand in the comments right now.
Raise it if you want to see that. We're kicking it around. Let me tell you why we don't just automatically pull the trigger is we want to bring you we have to do the gut reaction no matter what. All right. That's something we just got to do. We are worried about, not so much worried, but one of our concerns is if we do a 3.5 hour live stream for the entire game, by the time you get to the gut reaction, we're burnt, right? We're like, we've been talking for 3.5 hours. It ain't easy. So that's the one thing. If you want to see it happen,
I think
it's got to be.
They do.
Yeah. Hey, no surprise, but gang, it's got to be a groundswell. All right. Tell us here. Tell us on Twitter. Tell us at milehuddle.com in the comment section. We'll let you know. All right. Well, for now, we got to keep you in suspense, but keep it as a possibility. And in the meantime, follow the podcast on Twitter at HuddleUpPod, the main account at Mile High Huddle, my partner, Zack Kelberman at Kelberman NFL, myself at Chad and Jensen, and then the producer, of course, John Cronenberg at John K. MHH. Don't forget to check out the merch store when you get some time, huddleuppod.com. You want to take advantage of the $1,000 bonus risk-free week of sports betting at sportsbetting.com/milehighhuddle. And that's it, gang. Love you. Appreciate you. Don't forget to like this video, share it out there if we're doing a good job. And Zach, have a great weekend, bro.
You too. I'll see you Sunday for the halftime stream. And guys, check out the roundtable article tomorrow. We give our predictions and our scores. Leave you guys in suspense for what should be an interesting game on Sunday. See you then.